What's up, guys? How are you? How's everyone doing? I hope everybody's doing well by the time you see me here on this live format, right? Live stream. I'm doing it from my phone, driving, because I don't know if I'll be able to come on tonight on Unlimited show until later on, or maybe towards the end or the middle. So I figured let me try to talk a little bit now, just in case, right? And give my thoughts, because I said that once I had a clearer view and answer about what's going on with Xbox, that I would, speak on the matter and give my thoughts. Because the whole time I didn't really want to speak on it unless I knew exactly what was the deal, what was going on. And I think now, after we've seen the show, hey, Tool Man, how are you, brother? After we've seen the show or the podcast and what Microsoft's messaging or message is, we have a clearer view, even though a lot of people are still going to say, yo, what's up, Face? How are you? Even though a lot of people is going to say, probably to the effect that no, they weren't clear because they didn't mention the games that are being planned to bring over. Now, I think Microsoft's messaging in this show was concise. I think it was clear. They gave us a lot more answers than we anticipated and we probably expected, which is great. And I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I just think it's something that makes sense, something that we've spoken about, me particularly, for many, many years, for a long time now, about the situation with gaming itself as a whole. And I said a long time ago that a lot of games, right? Right. He was up Unlimited. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. I said a long time ago that the gaming industry, especially for smaller games, and hey, what's up, Tech? How are you? And for and for ABGL, what's up, brother? Thank you for joining. That the gaming industry, for a lot of developers, especially smaller developers, it's not something that's sustainable anymore, unfortunately. And we've seen that with a lot of smaller games that come out, like, Solstice and, Wanted Dead and games like, Evil West, that are fantastic games. Hey, yeah, I have my towel. Keep up the good work. Thank you, VGL 5058. I said that, unfortunately, they get overlooked and they don't even get taken a look at, like The Artful Escape and things of that nature. But also Lives as a Service games that maybe plateau can find a different audience. And in this case, I'm talking about something like perhaps maybe like Grounded. I believe one of those games, even though Phil didn't mention it, might be Grounded because it's a game as a service, right? It has a story, but it's a game that hasn't grown for quite a while and it's been on Xbox for a little while now. So the blue ones, I don't know. They have them home. They're washing. I'm watching them, Tech. So, I believe something like, Hi-Fi Rush that only hit over 2 million players. That was, something that came out of nowhere that was greatly appreciated, greatly criticized in a positive light, that could continue to grow. Perhaps on another platform can also find audience because, to be honest, people that play Nintendo and that play, that play PlayStation are not just going to go buy an Xbox or play on Xbox just to play games like that, right? But I think it's safe to say, Phil was very clear on it, that the AAA titles, the big titles that are the identity of Xbox, like Gears, Starfield now, right? Fable, the upcoming Perfect Dark, I think it's very clear to say that we know now, right, that those games are going to stay on Xbox because they know the Xbox needs an identity, right? And I think it's wonderful that they cleared that up. I already seen some people, like even on Xbox Sierra and other people trying to say, oh, no, they say that they're not off the table with future titles. Phil said very clearly that going forward, more exclusive games will be less and less on all platforms. And he meant meaning that you'll be able to play it on PC, on a phone, because the industry, in order for you to continue to make money and developers to make money, because games are expensive to make, you got to find ways to get into people's hands. And if it's not working by having more console sales to have people come in, right, then you got to figure that out, because the industry, like he said, had no growth. Although they have a lot of player engagement, the most they've ever had, in their services via Xbox Live, via Game Pass, and things of that nature, which makes perfect sense, right? But we know that all those other games like that are smaller, right, really are like, if they plateau, and he said, if we can look into trying to make games like sequels for them, we can find a bigger audience, and that will help to make a sequel for those games. Like, what comes to mind is things like ReCore. If ReCore would have been played by more people, they wouldn't have been so adamant to probably go ahead and make exclusives, because Sony, a game can fail and they'll make a sequel and the game still won't do well. They'll take a chance for making a sequel, but they don't sell well because they only rely on selling the game via physical or only on their platform. But I think with the messaging that came out yesterday with that new Sony head that's in charge, is very clear that they have to do adjustments as well for certain things and certain games that they're going to have to bring out to PC and other platforms. Other platforms can mean, phone. It could mean another console. We don't know yet. I think this is the direction that everybody's going to go moving forward. And he also made it clear there's only 4 games that have already found their complete growth on Xbox, meaning they're not moving forward. The numbers have stayed the same, but there's no promise of anything else. So don't say that and don't push that narrative. Okay? Which is good that they've nipped it in the bud, because that's when everybody runs like wildfire, especially in these sites, right? Like IGN and places like, Kotaku and Giant Bomb, for example, that love pushing different narratives and love pushing false narratives. I also like the fact that he clarified with Sarah and Matt Booty things like the future of the hardware. That they're going to make the next hardware, they're trying to aim for something that's going to be a bigger leap than what it is now, which showing the commitment that they're still committed to giving us the best consoles so that we can play the best versions of those games on consoles, since we are console gamers, right? And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing, because that evokes the promise that they're not leaving the hardware business, right? So I also like the fact that they address the fact that they want consoles to be like Windows, where you can continuously bring all your games and play them with you wherever you go in future hardware, where you're not going to feel like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my investment. He said, we respect, he used the words clear as day, respect, those were his words, the investment that people has made. And we don't want them to feel like that investment is thrown out the box by releasing new hardware, like the way Nintendo tends to do, right? And that's also very positive, okay? And it's also very concise and to the point. I think it's very clear, right? Which is great. So they address the fact that going forward, we might have consoles that just play the games without the necessary need of coding for back compat because of licensing, having to go to courts and dealing with people and other companies with their licenses. If you own the game, you could just play right out the box, which I think is what they're trying to aim for based on what they were saying, which would make way more sense. And I said that long ago. Why can't they just make the console where you could read whatever disc you put in it and play it, as opposed to relying on having to go to court and trying to get an agreement to make new licenses and new leases on these licenses so that you can play games that you already own. That's not the way it should be. If you paid for it and you're the owner of those games, you should have the freedom and you should have the actual, ability to play those games that you already paid for and own. And I think that's the message that he was trying to convey with what he said as far as compatibility. Also, because you bring your saves forward, you can play your library to cloud or things of that nature, right? They also address the fact that they are the only platform for Wi-Fi games. They go, yeah, absolutely. I think that's also another reason. They don't want to make you feel like you got to keep buying different versions of the game just to play it on different units that you have, which is also a positive, right? They also made it clear that all games will continue to be in date on Xbox Game Pass, and that Game Pass is only available on Xbox or PC, right? And even games on PC, they don't get all the games, or vice versa, right? It's what makes more sense. So having the fear that, oh no, we're not going to have no more games there, has also been put to rest, which is also a very good thing. I don't think that they're trying to negate the Xbox fan base. I don't think they're trying to devalue us. I just think that what they're doing, right, is because the gaming industry is just in a place where in order for it to grow, you got to find the audiences. And you're not going to do that if the games plateau and people don't keep playing them, which makes 100% sense. So if something like, I don't think something like Sea of Thieves is coming. I don't think it's one of those 4 games, because Sea of Thieves runs in Azure servers. Azure servers are only available on the Xbox and PC. They're not available on Nintendo or PlayStation. They don't have a structure to play those type of games. So I don't think it's Sea of Thieves. If I had to take a guess, I think it's games like Pentiment, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush, and maybe even something like Killer Instincts that they're trying to find the bigger audience to make a sequel, right? Because Killer Instincts is older, but it's still a franchise, a fighting game that you can play, cross-play, right, with PC, and perhaps on other consoles. And it'll be easier to run on something like a PlayStation or a Nintendo, which, to be honest, doesn't hurt us, because if we're making money out of their audiences as Xbox fans and the Xbox brand, that's going to help us long term, because that means it's more money for the console, more money for the brand, and they can bring out more games that could potentially be just exclusive for Xbox if they're AAA, for example. You know, I don't think they're trying to fool anybody about, oh, this is what we're saying today. That's why, if you notice, Phil said, I don't want to mention the games because I want to respect the developers and what they're doing. But when you see it, it's going to make sense. So I'm pretty sure if we'll see, let's say, a Nintendo Direct, and they make an announcement, oh yeah, this game is coming, that's where we're going to know, oh, okay, this coming to play the Nintendo or PlayStation when they do, let's say, one of the PlayStation Live shows that hey, what's up, Craig Simmons? Hey, Retro Gaming, what's up? We're gonna understand that, okay, right? You know, that these games can work here, but they're doing it because, again, something like Hi-Fi Rush, for example, plateaued at like 2-point-something million players. So if they can get more people to play it and they could potentially lead to a Hi-Fi Rush 2, then that makes all the sense in the world, right? Now, what I also think they're not telling us is that perhaps, since they did doing these deals, they might be doing deals with where Nintendo and Sony can also bring games that plateau on their platform to Xbox, right? The same way the MLB forced Sony to bring the MLB to Xbox because their numbers plateaued. And ever since it's been on Xbox, it has grown and it's doing well. And it's been available on Game Pass. So I think it's going to be a give and take. I don't think it's just going to be they give and no take and no returns. And that's how they're looking at it. So when he says, more and more exclusives will be less and less, right? The Vibe's waiting for Xbox to show us the handheld and new Intel. Yeah, probably. Maybe. I mean, they could be making handheld. We don't know. But I just think that's a market that Nintendo dominates so much that there's really no need to actually push a handheld if we can play them on a phone, right? Maybe they can make a screen that attaches to your phone or a controller that gives us, or like a Portal type machine that you can play them. via Wi-Fi or something like that. But I don't really think they need it because Nintendo's market is for kids, teenagers, and adults. So they're going to dominate that handheld market. I don't think Microsoft or even Sony will have a standing chance because people are already conditioned and adapted to the fact that Nintendo makes online handheld gaming, systems that you play on the go. Even when they were doing their DS and things like that, right? Yeah, that is pretty dumb, Retro. But people get hot in their feelings. They get anticipated way too fast. They don't wait. It's a wait and see process. It's like anything with any business, and like he said, we saw growth with people playing on the services, Game Pass, Xbox Live, but in the industry, you saw no growth because a lot of games came out, like I said, and they don't do well. They don't do well. It's very few and far between when games do exponentially well, like the way Hogsworks did, Hogsworks Legacy, right? But that's because it's a big IP that they haven't had a big, Harry Potter game in so long. So it made sense that they came out in droves and bought the game and played it and invested because they were waiting for something for so long, and they finally got a Harry Potter game that was next gen, that was the next thing over, that was leaps and bounds forward from anything you've ever played before, right? So again, like I said, I've been saying the whole time I didn't want to make a video, I want to talk until I knew for sure, and now I feel it's the right time. Now I can talk. Like I said, the show, I think, opened up a lot of eyes, things that we see. You see now that we know all Bethesda games are coming starting March something going forward, which is going to make Game Pass more attractive, right? But I think their idea and mindset behind all of this, the reality is if they get people to play Xbox games, like the smaller stuff, that plateau, that, that doesn't really move, right? That won't really hurt Xbox as a whole, like they did with Cuphead and like they did with Ori, right? And they can find an audience on Nintendo or PlayStation with some of their gamers that they'll actually be like, you know what, I'm going to go buy an Xbox so I can play their other titles, their other big games like Starfield, like the upcoming Hellblade, like Gears of War, like Halo, like Forza, like Fable, like, anything else that's big, right? And I think that's the idea behind it, if you listen to them very carefully. And he said, we're not making promises of nothing else coming, so don't push that narrative. It's 4 games that we're deciding to try out. We're going to see how it works. Because if you notice, he was very careful with his words. He said, we're going to see how it works, how it pans out, how it plays out. Because that's probably another thing. They're trying to do it as an experiment to see, well, do a game like Grounded works on Nintendo and PlayStation? Does it? Let's see. Does a game like Hi-Fi Rush makes it get a bigger audience where we can now invest and make a sequel, right? Or a game like Killer Instincts, for example. He said very clear, these 4 games have been on Xbox for a while. They haven't really done any more numbers. They haven't really moved. So we're trying to see if we can generate a bigger audience by putting it on the other consoles. He said it clear as day. You don't get any clearer than that. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing, right? But at the end of the day, he said they want to make moves that will help, right? That's going to help Xbox, right? Garner more money to make better investments and bigger investments. And I also think that part of this whole situation is because going forward, since they have so much trouble with the ABK deal with acquiring Activision, with the courts and all that thing and all that stuff, I think they figure, well, if we make another big, another big investment, like let's say, for example, hey, Louis Frank, how are you, puppy? Thank you for all you guys joining me. I appreciate you taking out the time to hear me out for a little bit. I think they saw that all that money they spent through the courts, all those hurdles were probably not worth the hassle. And so they're thinking, well, if we buy something like Sega, and again, this is all hypothetical, or if we buy something like Take-Two, right? We want to make sure that we don't get the backlash that people think, oh, we're just trying to control the industry and be a monopoly and not allow people to play games on other consoles that they want or platforms. Because if you have something like GTA on your moniker, even if you own it, you can't just be like, oh, we can only be on Xbox because GTA is too big. It has a big audience in PlayStation, on PC, and it's probably gonna get a big audience on Nintendo when it's there. It finally makes it. Because I don't even know if GTA 5 is on Nintendo. I'm not even sure. But you guys know what I mean. Which again, and you gotta go anywhere. Which again makes a lot of sense, right? So from how you look at it, and from the point of view of how they express themselves, again, I don't think that they're trying to devalue the Xbox console or the brand. I think they're just trying to figure out ways where they could expand by attracting other people that perhaps may not, right, invest on Xbox on another platform like Nintendo, let's say, or PlayStation, to when they experience some of the Xbox games that are smaller or games as a service, they'll be like, well, you know what? I want to buy an Xbox because I want to play other games like Gears and Halo, right? Or Starfield for that matter, or Morrowind, right? And I saw a lot of people, personally myself, when they brought out, the Indiana Jones trailer, right? That are just fans of the franchise, literally making videos saying, I got to buy an Xbox because I want to play Indiana Jones. And I think they saw that. And then when I saw people with Starfield, same thing. They bought it and they're like, man, the Xbox console and ecosystem is amazing. They got a lot of value for your buck. They're giving you all these games on Game Pass, really fantastic games that otherwise I would have never played because I can't buy every game because they're expensive, especially the smaller stuff. Because people always, remember, right? People always, they get hesitant, right? When they buy a game and they see a smaller title, like, let's say that new game that came out by Tequila Works, Song of something, I forgot what it's called, it's an incredible little game, right? Let's say, for example, they see that game, and let's say if it was only on Xbox as an exclusive, they won't spend the money to buy it because it's not on Game Pass. They'll be like, oh, I don't know if I want it. I don't know if I should buy it. And I think that's where the whole idea of changing some of the strategy moving forward is part of the reasoning of why they're trying to do these things in that way, because they want to make sure that they can protect some of the developer. And he said, we want to make sure that developers can keep their creativity, not hesitate, and keep wanting to do other things and special things moving forward. And I think part of that is if they have the okay or green light of, okay, you're going to put this on Xbox, bring it out, see how it does. If it doesn't do well enough, then we'll let you put it on something else like Nintendo or PlayStation to see if it garners any traffic or audiences there to help the game grow, and then you can make maybe perhaps a sequel or more games in that universe, right? Like a side story, right? So ponies are sick and happy because without Xbox, e-begging, right. No, go broke. Well, look, brief retro gamer. The reality is too that Microsoft has the most money out of all these companies, right? So they can afford to maybe sacrifice a game here and there because they have so much developers and money that they can do any game they want exclusive, right? They can do that. Nintendo and Sony don't have that kind of freedom because of their economical situation. It's very different. Now, do I think this will stop Nintendo and Sony in the future from bringing games of theirs, maybe smaller titles, like let's say something like Returnal? I don't think so. I think this could open the doors that if it works for Xbox, right, Nintendo or Sony are going to keep a close eye on them, like, oh, if it worked for them, then we should give it a try too, and put some of our games, like Splatoon, that is an online game, on Xbox or PlayStation itself, and find more audiences and make it cross-platform, across, or cross-play on every console, even PC. You see, this is going to help the gamers and the industry going forward in a good way, not a bad way. And I think that people just get afraid thinking, oh, but if you give your exclusives, no matter what, small or big, you're never going to have people respect your platform. That may be so for casuals that don't really understand that this is a very much bigger and greater situation and industry, right? This industry is much broader and bigger now. It's no longer like in the traditional sense like back in the day, because back in the day, games didn't cost $125 million to make, right? So if a game didn't cost $125 million to make, obviously back then they could afford to keep it exclusive, right? Because they didn't spend much and they'll get their returns with just a few millions consoles or copies sold, right? It doesn't work that way anymore. Not in the age that we live in. Look at that game, Avion, something of Avion, right? They came out and said that they spent $125 million to make that game, right? And I think the game didn't do well. It didn't do well, right? And that's a multi-platform, from what I understand, right? It didn't do well. So now those guys are probably perhaps going to have to consolidate, lay people off, because he also brought up that situation that unfortunately they had to lay people off just so they can keep the establishment and what they're doing within Xbox, where it's not going to hurt them long term, right? Where it makes sense, where they can cut some corners, right, and make sure that they keep the lights on for other things, right, or for other future projects, like a new console perhaps, or a new big AAA game that they might be working on. So I know a lot of people are going to turn this around. They're like, oh, but they didn't say the games. That's bullshit. I just think doesn't want to make a promise, right? And then after he makes a promise, I don't think he makes a promise, and say one thing, then they have to turn around and do something else. Then they. So again, that's what I think this is whole an approach business-wise is coming from. I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think they have any type of malicious plan behind it. I don't think they're trying to lie to the consumers or the Xbox fan base. I don't think they're trying to give us, the vertical slice. I just think they're trying to figure to make that, the gaming industry as a whole continues to grow, especially for smaller developers or for games as a service games that, in order to maintain them and keep them alive, you got to keep investing in them. And if you find an audience and it plateaus and you want it to keep growing, you got to try and see if you can find Demo Flow, how are you, puppy? That you can try to find a bigger audience by maybe putting it on PlayStation and Nintendo, that it might help the game move forward. That's why I said we're going to see how it works out and how it plays out, because it's all new to them as well. It's an experiment. And we all know that a lot of PlayStation fans don't even buy and support their fucking games, right? It's only a handful. Maybe the bigger stuff like a Spider-Man, yes, but that's because it's Spider-Man. It's a big IP, right? Especially now more than ever. Before, not so much, but now more than ever, right? Thank you, Demo Flow. I appreciate you even taking the time, Papa. So again, like I said, not to sound like a broken record, right? That is why it makes sense, and I think it's going to open the door, like I said, for companies like Nintendo and PlayStation to also consider it with smaller games of theirs. Like I said, like a Returnal, for example, that they didn't really sell a lot of copies, but the game has been there stagnant and nobody's really playing it, right? So, I think going forward, it's going to help us as gamers. I think it's going to help the industry, right, as a whole, because of, it's going to create bigger opportunities and open up windows and doors to, create other source of income to come in. I think it's going to help games that probably are dying, whether it's streaming wise or whatever the case may be, like a Power World, for example. Um, that started off strong and then they dwindled down. I think it'll help those games to continue to get bigger and grow. And if it doesn't, right, like he said, if it doesn't, because he said we're going to see how it goes, we're going to see how it plays out. If it doesn't, then I think Microsoft will probably say, we tried this, we tried to see if it worked, it really didn't work. So now we got to focus on just our platform and doing it our way. It's like I told people when they tried to raise the price of Xbox Live. That was Microsoft simply trying to find a way to recover money where they were losing in another area, because they probably felt, well, we haven't raised the price since the OG Xbox. It's been more than 15, 20 years, and it's only going to be double the amount for the year, right? Which still $120 is not that bad, right? Anything after that, then maybe it's a red line and like, oof, damn, I don't know, 180, that's kind of a much. But 120, and the fact that they never raised it since OG, I think was not unreasonable, even though people freaked out. But they freaked out, they changed it. Now they got to find other venues, other ideas, and other ways to recoup money, to bring more people in, to keep getting the engagement for other games. Because they're not just talking about their big exclusives, they're talking about smaller games, which makes sense, right? So many games get lost in the mix because of the big games, like Vanisher that just came out, getting good, good feedback, getting good critic reviews, or critically acclaimed, but I don't think it's doing the numbers. And that's a multi-platform. Why? Because there's a new IP. And when people see new IPs that are not established, like Assassin's Creed, like Gears, like God of War, they hesitate. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to buy that. It looks good, but I'm going to probably wait until it goes to $30. And that's the problem. The same way when people see games on Game Pass, like Plague Tales Requiem, and they'd be like, oh, I'll just play it on Game Pass. Game Pass is supposed to be an option and an entry point to help you play a game, to see if you like it, and if you like it, you don't have no fear in actually going out and buying it, because we all know all the games don't stay on Game Pass forever. They stay there depending on the deal that they make with the developer. If it's 3 months, 6 months, then they take it out. If they renegotiate and bring it out again, then they do that. No problem. But that doesn't always happen. That's not always the case, because it's expensive. You saw that GTA 5, being a 15, almost 17-year-old game, they were paying $10 million a month just to have it on Game Pass. That's crazy. $10 million a month, if you add it up for a whole year, is almost $100 million or $120 million, where you could just put all that money into making a brand new game. So how do they really see any benefit from that? They don't, right? So it makes sense that, and people got to start to adapt to the idea that Game Pass is not just for you to play games for free, right? If you want to look at it that way, because you're paying a small amount of money, and even though you're paying a small amount, you still can play more than 400 games, right? It's supposed to be that you play it. I play many games on Game Pass, and I like it. And what do my sons do? They buy it because they want to own it. They don't rely on Game Pass to play these games. You see? And that's the point. You have to understand that you have to make investments, because developers can't continue to make games or make sequels if the games don't sell, if they don't do well enough. That's why a lot of games don't even come out physical anymore, because they only come out digitally, because it's a safer bet for them, because they make all the money. There's no third man, there's no third wheel, and they don't have to worry about, oh, well, what about if they don't do well enough? What am I supposed, and they don't sell, and what am I going to do? And they have to close down, because a lot of developers, as we all know, have closed down. Murder Soul Suspect is one of those developers that comes to mind. They had to shut down, right? So again, I think Xbox messaging was concise. I think it was honest. I think they were trying to be as clear but respectful to the developers, the gamers, and the whole situation. And they made it clear: no Starfield and Indiana Jones. Hey, Dunkling, how are you, puppy? Hey, Eli, how are you? Yeah, they'll keep port begging, but that's not how it works. If you want to play Starfield, you want to play Indiana Jones, they made it clear: no, it's not going to PlayStation. Those are big flagship titles, and if you want to play them, you got to play them on Xbox, which keeps the identity of the console. And that's the most important thing. It keeps the identity, the console. Yeah, I know, Dunkling, that it kind of feels like Microsoft is always bailing out Sony. But to be honest with you, if Microsoft left completely, the industry won't last too long. It'll die. Because Nintendo and Sony don't make enough of evolving of games and in the industry to move it forward. They also don't have enough money to sustain it the way that Microsoft does with studios. Because if games don't sell well, they got to close the studio down. It's that simple. They did it with a plethora of studios last generation because they had no choice. It just is the sign of the time. This is no longer that era that we grew up in, that we love so much, which obviously is archaic and relic by today's standard, where games were only exclusive all the time on this platform. And that was mainly because, like I said earlier, those games were cheap to make compared to now, right? The fundamentals, Phil said, the fundamentals of exclusivity strategy, it's not changed. So I'm not worried. Absolutely. Like I said, again, with them making this move, it's going to open eyes, because if it works, don't be surprised, like I said, if Nintendo follows suit, or even PlayStation, with smaller titles. I'm not saying God of War got to be on Xbox. No. God of War is a PlayStation title. It belongs on Sony's console. And if you want to play it, that's where you got to go play it. You see? Same thing like Gears. But something like Returnal, or something like Sisu when it came out originally, or like, the Final Fantasy series that's not owned by them, well, that makes sense. Bring it everywhere else, right? Even stuff that From Software is doing, like The Last Ronin. They don't own the IP. It's owned by, Tecmo and Ninja and Team Ninja. So why not? Right, the Ultimate Sub 5 War, the Blue Man. Hey, Blue Man, how are you? Right. So, again, as gamers, we're supposed to celebrate games more, first and foremost, not just consoles or exclusivity. So if they're trying to do this to help future smaller titles or lives as a service title, to help the developers stay afloat and make more money and be able to make sequels, right? Right, just pirate games you want. Yeah, but then that doesn't help, Blue Man. I agree with you, but then that doesn't help, right? Because again, you can't call yourself a gamer and then praise or promote, I want to pirate games. Because at the end of the day, if we pirate games, hey Jay, how are you? Thank you for stopping by. At the end of the day, if we pirate games, we're not helping the developers. We're not helping the industry. You see what I'm saying? I understand what you're saying from the standpoint of the ponies, that they're always complaining that they want Xbox games but won't buy an Xbox. I get it. And the Blue Man, you're 100% right. If that's the case, then just pirate it, because it makes no sense. But again, that doesn't help developers. It doesn't help the industry. You know what I mean? Yeah, like Siphon Filter. Yeah, you could play Siphon Filter on the Xbox with the emulator, with the DevKit mode. You can play it, and it runs well, right? Because there's many emulators that run on it. But again, we're not stealing it, because if Sony doesn't make a sequel or doesn't allow you to play it on their own platform or on their own services, that's not stealing. Because I'm pretty sure if they put it on PlayStation Plus, re-brought it out, and put it on their services, people would actually play them and invest and buy the games. Because there's a lot of thousands of games that they love that are retro that we can't access no more, that we love, that we'll play if it's made available to us. Absolutely. That's 100% fact. Absolutely. 100% fact. But again, some people don't see it that way. Especially the casuals, because the casuals don't understand the ins and out of gaming and the industry. And that's no shade at casual gamers. That's just the fact. Somebody like me that's hardcore, that's been doing this since I was like 1979. I understand because I've been through it. I've seen it all. I've been there since day one. The crashes and falls. New companies trying to make consoles like Pioneer, NEC, Atari bringing out another console and failing again. It's just, it's a tough industry. And now it's even tougher because technology has gotten more sophisticated and the games have gotten more expensive. I want to reiterate that. The game industry has gotten more expensive and more sophisticated. So in order to push forward new technologies, new graphic engines, new technology like Dolby Atmos Surround and Dolby Vision HDR, you need to pay, and those things are not cheap. They're expensive. That's why Amazon is trying to take it out and let you pay for it separately, because those things are owned by Dolby, the company, not by Amazon, not by Apple, not by Xbox, not by Sony. No, they don't own that. They have to pay them fees to put the technology in the console, and they have to pay them royalties, right? Last June, during the trial film, did say it was trying to pay or grounded. Right. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was what. Yeah, I was just saying that earlier, Jay, that I believe that Grounded, since it's plateaued as far as the audience growing, and it's a game as a service with, a story mode, they're probably like, you know what, let's try to put Grounded there. Let's try to put something like Pentiment. Games that are not really big, that really people talked about it when they came out. They came and went, and they're not really talked about anymore. Like Recore. That would have made sense because nobody really talked about it, right? In fact, people trashed it and didn't even play it, right? Games like Killer Instincts, because if they're trying to make a sequel and they're trying to entice a new developer to make a sequel, if they see that people are still playing it on other platforms too, it'll help entice the idea of let's make Killer Instinct 3 finally, right? Yeah, Xbox there again. Yeah. I was looking at that. And the first thing the guy said, oh no, he still didn't put it off the table that Starfield and Indiana Jones won't come to other platforms. No, yes he did. He definitely did. He said, no, Starfield and no, Indiana Jones is not going to other consoles. No, he said it. Don't give on a promise that other games and every game is coming. No, we are doing 4 games that we're going to try out and see how it works, because of the fact that those games have been on Xbox for a while. They haven't found more audience, and we want to see if they can grow by being played perhaps on another console, that they might discover it and discover Xbox games and invest in Xbox. Buying the games, because if they buy it on PlayStation or Sony, that's Microsoft that gets money. So then they're getting money, right? And that's how they're looking at it. And if they like what they see, then they'll be like, you know what? I want to buy an Xbox. He says, I got to play Starfield 2. I got to play Gears of War 7 or 6. That's the mindset. He was very clear when he spoke, Phil. He was very clear. You know what I mean? Yeah, he about right. Shut them down and with that one. Right. Demo Flow said, my 4-game prediction is Pentiment, Grounded, Hi-Fi Rush, and Sea of Thieves. I agree with you with all of them except Sea of Thieves. And the only reason why I say that, Demo Flow, is because Sea of Thieves, remember, Papa, it runs on Azure servers. Microsoft is the only console with Azure servers, dedicated servers. Sony don't have that, and neither does Nintendo. Sony has OpenGL, as a matter of fact. They can't even run DirectX 12, if I'm not mistaken, right? So I seriously doubt that there'll be Sea of Thieves. Now, could it be something else, like maybe, I don't know, what, like Roblox? I think Roblox is already on PlayStation, isn't it? Probably something like Roblox. You see that they emphasize games like Gears of Call of Duty, Minecraft Legends, they emphasize those because those games are behemoths. You can't just leave them on one platform. They're too big. They're played on phones. They're played on tablets. They're played on PC. That's what their vision and their idea is about certain games. So unless they run it on peer-to-peer, then CFTs might go, right? Oh yeah, maybe. Thank you for stopping Snakebite. Yeah, he might be watching. I don't care. I feel sorry for so you see. So again, I think that's the idea that Microsoft has behind all this, and I think it makes sense. So if Grounded or Pentiment or Hi-Fi Rush go to Nintendo and PlayStation, and they don't do well, again, he said it, to see how it goes, and if they don't do well, then I would not be surprised, right, that you won't see them moving forward with more games that are smaller. But I think the idea is help these smaller games so that they can make sequels for them, like Hi-Fi Rush 2. And if that happens and it works out, then I'm pretty sure we'll still get Hi-Fi Rush 2 day and date on Game Pass. We'll still play it first, and then on a further date, it'll probably go to Nintendo and PlayStation, which we still win because we still have first dibs no matter what. And we'll more than likely have the best version of the game anyway, because you saw they said that they want to invest on backwards compatibility more. They said it clear, and I'm betting you any money they emphasize that because the 360 store is closing soon. So they're probably trying to figure out a way where you can just play your games on the next console without needing permission from these other licensees. So don't be surprised if you see that. So, and they emphasize it. They said, Paramount said, our next console, we want it to be 2 times the leap of what we got now, 2 to 3 times, which means they just want to push the envelope more and more. So if you buy an Xbox, not only are you buying it for the exclusives, but you're buying it with the idea that you're going to play all the games you own at the best possible quality on your console. Not PC, on your console. Right? Because they don't want console gamers to feel forced to have to buy a PC if they like playing on consoles just to play a game at a better, higher quality. He said, we want to do what Windows done for PC with consoles. That's what we've been trying to do since the beginning. And Phil's always been very, very, very transparent and vocal about it. He said, we always use different words. It's a play of words so that you can figure it out. But it's not to deceive anybody. And I think it's good that he hit that on the nail and that he pointed it out and that he let the audience and the fan base know, here, listen, here's a sense of relief. No, we're not putting every game on other consoles. No. We're putting games that we think make sense to help those games and the developers going forward so they could perhaps keep growing the game, or if they want to make a sequel, they can. He was very, 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 very transparent. And again, like I said, it made perfect sense. I'm glad that they finally addressed it. I'm sorry to all of you guys that have been waiting for me to talk for a while, but I've told you guys I don't like speaking on rumors, even though I know people that know certain people on Xbox, because that's not enough for me. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth, because that way I don't ever have to regret anything I say on a video that I might do earlier or before everything went down like today, and then I look like a dummy, like all these other people that jumped the gun, that got ahead of themselves, right? Every game's going to Xbox. They're going full a full multi-plat. Now those people are going to look and feel foolish. And they're going to say, the first thing they'll say is, oh, of course they said that. They retracted because they're going to do it at a later date. They're just trying to, stop the inevitable. We're not stupid. That's what they're going to say. We all know that, right? Because they don't want to take an L. They don't want to, realize that things are not as simple as black and white. The reality is, it's a business, and Microsoft is a brand and a division of Microsoft. Microsoft is the brand. If Microsoft said, we want you to do this because we want to see if we can grow this, doing this, Microsoft, the division, has to listen to the Xbox brand, because if they don't, they can shut them down. A lot of people can lose their jobs. It's that simple. So we as fans just got to dwindle it down, take it easy, take it one step at a time and see what happens, right? Because again, You saw what the Sony had said yesterday. They're going to have to do the same changes because gaming is not profitable just and sustainable just by being in one platform with certain things. So bringing it other places makes sense, especially for the developers, because that way it's fair to them and they don't have to fear and be scared that they're going to close down. Look at that other studio that does the Crash, Toolbox Games or whatever, how they took that out of proportion, right? They took that out. Hey, others, thank you for stopping by. They took that out of proportion, saying they were closing down, and the reality is that they consolidated, had layoffs, because where they were renting out their studio was too expensive. They wanted too much money. So now they're going to go via remote, via their choice. They chose to do it that way. Not Microsoft that told them, no, you got to do it that way. And people were running with that. No, they chose, we want to go remote, virtual developing. They did it the way that Moon Studio has been doing it for years, right? And they laid off some people because they refused to pay the ridiculous amount of money that they were charging them to be in that office where they were developing the games. And that's a smart business move. Makes sense. Again, people, we are the gamers. We're the fans. We got to stop relying on IGNs, on the Kotakus, on the Digital Foundries, on the Giant Bombs, on all those sites. We got to stop relying on the clowns that like to do negative news all the time, like Reforged Gaming or MBG. Those dudes don't have insiders. They don't know shit. They just want to hate Xbox because that brings them clicks and views, right? And all they're worried about is making money. So, of course, they're going to be negative. So we got to stop relying on those dudes. Stop listening. We have to, or Tom Warren, for example. Thank you, Jay. We have to rely on what we see coming from Microsoft and Xbox themselves. We have to play it one day at a time. Stop getting ahead of ourselves. We will get our answers. We will get our reason for why things are going certain ways. We don't have to cry and get upset. No. I think Microsoft, like Tim Dog, Jez Gordon, Ryan McCaffrey. Yes, absolutely. Others saying 1,000% facts. These guys are there for the money, and they have to keep making money by hating Xbox. It's that simple. It's not impersonal. It's just business. They can't make money unless they don't do what they do. So what do? We take away their bag. How do we take away their bags? Paul Tassi, the dick puller. Absolutely. We just don't give them use. We don't give them power. Every time we go to them, we're giving them power. We don't need them to dictate us as gamers. We've been doing this shit for years with none of them. Now, because social media exists, everybody just relies on social. No. More than likely, when you hear a rumor, that's all it is, a rumor. And it's not going to be 100% exact. So you have to wait until you get your answers from the horse's mouth. So, again, guys, like I said, let's take it easy. I think this show was good enough to give us good answers. I think that this show was fair to us, right? Even though they didn't mention the names of the games, we have an idea. We're not stupid. We can read between the lines. And I think that we should be, we can rest easy. We can feel some sense of relief now that we got some definitive actual words from them. And now we can move forward and make our own determinations and our own ideas of what is going to happen going forward in the future. And I don't think that's unfair assessment. I think that's a fair assessment. So, guys, I'm going to let you go. I've been on here for like 50 minutes. I'm glad I took the time to do this. It's been a while. Please forgive me. I'm sick. My eyes are messed up. I got a congested nose. I'm running around trying to do things for my kids while doing this, and they're being kind enough to let me do it without interfering or making me feel bad. And they are with me in the car, believe it or not, because they're very classy to me. But I wanted to talk to you guys and give you my thoughts because I think I made you wait long enough. And I know a lot of you have been telling me, Chris, do a video. I would like to get your point of view and what's going on. And I hope I did that with this little stream. I love you guys. I hope to talk to you soon. I hope to see you tonight on the Unlimited Truth. If I don't make it right away, at least you guys heard from me now. And I'll talk some more about some other things when we go on tonight. And, have a blessed rest of your day. Be safe. And I'll talk to you guys soon, all right? Peace and love. Keep it gaming. Xbox for life. Like a sickness that can't be cured. That's my saying. That's my slogan. People don't get triggered. It's only gaming. It's all in good fun. Peace, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.